I am today's moderator, Justin. Today's conference call will be recorded and may be made available on YouTube for the general public. The topic of today's conversation is Department of State Hospitals Coalinga Residents' Experience of the Patient's Rights Office and Advocate Services. The format will be a roundtable by unit. Please, when your unit is called, say your name if you wish to speak. Then wait for your name to be called by the moderator before making your statement. Today's moderator is Justin, and this conference call is supported by the working group. Some ideals you may want to speak on are: 1, how do you feel about the Patient's Rights Office? 2, do the Patient's Rights Advocates help you in your rights issues? 3, if you do not seek their help, why not? 4, have you ever witnessed the Patient's Rights Advocates touring the housing units during the 2.5-year pandemic lockdown here at DSH Coalinga? Please try to keep your statements brief and to the point. If you can limit your statement to 5 minutes, it would be appreciated. If you want follow-up and or do not want to be anonymous, you may state your first name and CO number for possible follow-up. Thank you. Larry, would you like to go first?
Yeah, this is Larry, and I'm from Unit 12. I'd like to say the 4 things that I see are the problem with the office. Number 1, they rarely, if ever, do interviews before they respond to your complaint. So they don't know. Unit 19. They don't have all the. Okay, I'll get into that in a second. They don't give interviews, rarely, if ever. They don't respond to the issue you present. You complain about the hospital sending your stimulus money back, and their response has to do with filing a tax return. It's completely out of not what you were talking about. The third thing is they side with the hospital rather than advocate on our behalf. And the fourth thing is they don't use their legal team, which is in the Welfare and Institutions Code. They have a section that says they have a legal team, and they don't use it to fight against when our rights are being violated. Are they helpful? No. What do I feel about their office? They could be replaced by any 4 patients in this hospital, and we'd do a better job. And do I get their help or not? Yes, I've helped many, many people file a complaint, and I'm very familiar with what I'm talking about. These are the things that they do and don't do, and why they should not be representing us. Thanks, Justin.
You're welcome. All right. Is Unit 1 on the line?
Yes, Unit 1 is Hydrick and Alan Fletcher. 9670.
Would either Hydrick or Mr. Fletcher like to speak today?
Yeah, I'll go first. I raised the same issues that Larry raised, including the fact that they sidestep the issue. When you complain about a particular issue, they won't even address that issue. They'll tell you to go and talk with your treatment team or your U.S., knowing that you had already done that. You even stated that in the complaint that you have done that already with no results. And so they keep, it appears that they keep everything going around in circles. That patient rights won't come down and interview you, and when you do give them information and they respond, they'll tell you over the phone, yeah, okay, I agree, you're right about that. But when they get the complaint back, it's totally opposite of what your conversation was with that individual. Medical issues, property issues, exercise issues, all that is the same thing. They keep bringing you back to the U.S. And your treatment team, even though you've already, the first thing you document in the complaint is your procedural history to them, saying, okay, I went to the treatment team, they told me to file a complaint. I went to the U.S., they told me to file a complaint, and so I've exhausted that remedy. That's why I'm now filing a patient rights complaint so that you can address this issue. When you get the response back, same thing. Go to your U.S. or treatment team. And almost always, your complaint at the end will come back unfounded. Here, you want to go say something?
Justin, this is Alan. May I go?
Yes, Alan, go ahead.
So a few highlights. First of all, Patient Rights Advocacy has been renewing their contract approved by the legislature for millions of dollars for advocacy services for all 5 state hospitals. Here at Coalinga State Hospital, there has been implemented measures to hinder patients' access to the patient rights advocate as follows. We used to have a patient right advocate office where we could walk in and speak to an individual to sit down with and hear our issues, so we would be able to gain one-on-one advocacy. The administration precludes us from doing that. Number 2, we used to have a patient right box where we can handwrite complaints, or people that are elderly, infirm, could place a patient right complaint form in that box. Administration now closed that box that was in what we call our mall area of the hospital. Number 3, patient rights phones when we leave a patient right voicemail and we ask for a patient right advocate to call us back. We have not received timely responses, including timely responses to egregious patient right issues that has to deal with issues ranging from disrespect of staff to elder or other sustainable allegations of patient abuse or neglect. Patient right advocates fail to come onto a unit, irregardless of if we are on quarantine or not on quarantine. They will not come over to sit down with us to discuss the issue. 5, they do not investigate. Investigate means to thoroughly look into all issues of the complaint presented to them, including any factual documentation we would have. They fail in that advocacy. Additionally, statutorily, under the guidelines that they are under for advocacy, they have to respond within a mandated time frame. Patient rights advocates fail to respond in a timely manner and have cited lack of staff and lack of staffing. Also, the way that the Welfare and Institution Codes reads, these are advocates. Advocacy simply means advocating an issue on one's behalf. The way that the Welfare and Institution Code is written, the advocate services, instead of simply stating to administration that they are aware of an egregious issue and that, like the previous caller mentioned, would actually file through what they call referring out, a term that I was told that they used when it comes to attorney services for us, they fail to do that. Advocacy, again, just simply means they want to advocate on our behalf. Unfortunately, a lot of times when an advocate, a patient right advocate, does get involved, they're stonewalled from the administrators who tell them that, quote unquote, there is no issue, or that they will not be talking about the issue and the issue is closed. That is obstructing the advocacy services and obstructs any type of potential criminal activity that could have happened with respect to violating elder abuse claims. I believe that administration hinders our access to the patient rights advocate, and the patient right advocacy, in turn, are not doing their job. These have been systemic, egregious issues where legislature has allotted millions of tax dollars for this service that unfortunately comes up short. That's my statement, and I hope that the legislature relooks at what's going on here. I have another patient here who wishes to speak. Is that okay, Justin?
Say your first name and number.
Yes, next patient, please state your first name.
Hello, name is Terry Leak.
Yes, could you please state your first name?
Terry, Terry, Leak, Leake. Oh.
Okay, go ahead.
Number is 391-3. And been here in Coalinga 2006, and they used to give me morphine and Tramadol, and now they just give me Robaxin, and it. I thought it was medical.
No, patient rights. The complaint is filed, and they're inadequate.
Oh, I've filed numerous patient rights complaints, and they say, talk to the U.S. in my complaint. I tell them I've already talked to the U.S. I've done complaints, and they, like for now, twice now, back to back for hearing impaired TV, and I'm still waiting for hearing aid TV for now 4 years now. And this all the units that have a TTY phone on them have a TTY TV. I mean, a hearing impaired TV. This is the only unit that does not have a TTY. I mean, a hearing impaired TV access.
Hey, Justin, if you don't mind, this is Jeff. Could I break in here and address this group here for a second? I have a team that's working in Egypt, and I think I can help here with some of this.
Justin, I'd like to make a quick statement, but let's try to keep,
I need to kind of let these guys know how patients' rights fits into this.
Go ahead. You want to make an informational statement? Go ahead.
Yeah, as I shared with you before the call. So all you guys need to know that some, like what he referred to, some of his Motrin, all this is patients' rights issues, and I've been dealing with them the last couple of days through emails. And Michele Mudgett, I want to speak while Heydrich and Fletcher are still on the call, because when we need patients' rights for our medical conditions, for TTY and those sorts of things, they're not available. And Mr. Kreitzer did a conference call this past weekend, which was abhorrent, the conditions that were described. People not being able to get medical care, medications being prescribed without consulting with patients, and that sort of thing. Those are patients' rights issues. And they're non-responsive, and they have not been non-responsive for years. And we have a conference call scheduled for August 12th, and in my opinion, when I heard some of those things, it made me nauseated. And I contacted them and said, we need to discuss these emergent medical issues now. And they refused. And they blocked me from contacting any DRC staff, even at business, even in their offices during business hours. As recently as today, I tried to call DRC staff today and was blocked. Michele Mudgett sent me an email. She's the director of patients' rights, and told me that you can contact DRC staff at our office during business hours, and I was still blocked. And she got upset with me for calling her on her personal cell phone over the weekend, saying it was disrespectful and inappropriate. And she said, I'm questioning whether your interests are aligned with the patients at the hospital. And this is why I told Justin that I wanted to speak on this call, which they're going to receive a copy of this afternoon, and it's going to be on YouTube. And I'm glad that Mr. Kreitzer is on the call with us, because I left her a message this morning telling her that I have never done anything that was not aligned with the interests of this hospital, and that I had no desire to call her or any DRC staff on their home numbers if there was an option to reach those board members during business hours. And I asked her to call me today or tomorrow so that we can discuss these emergency issues involving patients not being able to get Medicare, medical services, not being able to see the doctor, or such as what this man's describing, needing emergency or TTY services. The other issues can wait, that are not emergencies. So we'll see what happens. But I would like Mr. Kreitzer, Justin, Paul, to speak just briefly before everybody gets off this call. And if anybody has any objection to what I'm doing on your behalf, please say so on this call. That if I can't reach them in their offices, I'm doing what politicians do, what car salesmen do, what insurance people do every day, is calling them on their personal cell phones to tell them that people are suffering here, and that people need medical attention. And if anybody believes that I'm misrepresenting you or that I'm doing something that's wrong, please say so on this call so that they can get a copy of this. And I would like Mr. And the last thing I'm going to say is I would like Mr. Paul to just, if you allow him, Justin, and then I'm going to be off of this. If he could just state to everybody that the working group has endorsed my preparation for this conference call with DRC on the 12th. It's been endorsed on the condition that the presenters prepare their statements in writing, and they be submitted a couple weeks ahead of time to be reviewed by the attorneys, and that we conduct ourselves in an appropriate and professional manner. I'm done speaking.
Yeah, but as I was
saying, are you on the line?
Yeah, this is Terry again. As I was saying, I've got nearly a bin full of patient rights complaints that I've filed, and they come back with responses, because I had to call because of my hand problems. I have to call them up, and they come back with responses that have nothing to do with the phone calls that I make to them, or half responses that are inadequate to what I've called them about. They often wrongly claim that issues are not a patient's right when they are, and they just, like I say, they twist what I say and they turn it around and seem to advocate more for the staff than they do for the patients. And I'm like, this is not what I said. All right, the most recent one that I got back was they called back when the TTY was out for nearly a month, and they called back on the phone. And I said, the phone was brought to me on a regular phone, like this one, and they got it on speaker, and I have difficulty hearing. It's a good thing it's quiet in here, because we're in a quiet room. And I said, you have to hold on, because I was in the TV room. I had to go somewhere where I can hear you, and I had to go all the way down by the U.S.'s office, to where I can hear, and put it on speaker, because I'm hearing impaired, and my hearing aids are out, because they broke my hearing aids, giving me the wrong batteries for them. And I'm still waiting to see the audiologist on this. And I've filed patient rights numerous times on this about the hearing aid batteries and all this. And the complaint came back, that I heard him just fine on the phone. And I had to call them back immediately and said, when I received the complaint, said, hey, no, I didn't hear you just fine on the phone. I told you I had to go somewhere where I could hear you, and all this. And he wrote that, I heard him just fine on the regular phone, and I had to call them back and complain about how they wrote this up, like, I can hear just fine on these regular phones, and that really ticked me off, how they twisted the words around that, I was letting them know, I can hear good where I was at in a quiet area because I hear the loudest things. If there's any other noise around, I'm going to have problems hearing it.
Noted. I'm documenting that as them second guessing the medical order that says that you're hearing impaired, because a PRA is not qualified to make a determination whether you are or not hearing impaired. Right.
In fact, Fletcher,
is there anything else
the reason I still have it on me is because Fletcher was going to make a copy of it. Alan.
We don't need it read. We understand. We've heard your statement. Is there anything else that you'd like to add to your statement?
Yeah, like I said, I got dozens and nearly a bin full of complaints that, of how they done things. And, if you ever need to make copies of them, of how they just react to our complaints. It's a joke.
Noted. We do have a follow-up procedure, and you may get follow-up calls.
The problem is with their follow-up procedures is you have to write them in, and I with my hand problems, they tried to operate on my hand years ago to try to fix it, and I don't have anybody to do the follow-up procedures. So the only thing I can do is phone procedures in, and so all I can do is do the first line of...
I mean that an individual may call you, contact you for more information regarding the statement you've made today.
Huh? Like I said, I'm hearing impaired.
I'm saying that an individual may contact you for more supporting information regarding the statement that you've made today. So they may request copies of those, the complaints and the responses that you're talking about. Just go ahead and hold on to them for now.
Okay, like I said, they're in a bin and destroyed on the unit, and some in my lockers. So.
Noted.
All right, there's another gentleman that wants to speak.
All right, what's this next gentleman's first name, please?
Thomas. I just got moved over here to... Huh?
What is your first name, please?
Thomas.
Thomas. And
yes.
Today's phone call is recorded and will be made available to the general public on YouTube. Do you consent to the recording?
Yes.
Okay, go ahead. Make your statement.
Yes, I was moved over here to Unit 1 because Ian Young, the administrative psych tech on our program here in Unit 1, needed to send another patient, Robinson, back over to Unit 9, where he had been previously living when he lived there with me. But all of a sudden, he looks in a prior record and said, well, they had a problem, so I'm not sending them over there together, and moved me out of my program. I was taking treatment. I was taking trauma therapy, and I was taking SOTP therapy, and working on the unit. And because of a psych tech decided that he didn't talk to me or Robinson about how we get along or anything, that he's going to move me.
I'm going to interrupt here and ask people please to stay on focus on the topic, which is patients' rights. That is
right.
all
so I
this
called
topic
patients'
is.
rights to make an SOC 341, and they haven't talked to me at all. They haven't called me back once about the move and about a psych tech supposedly making an administrative charge where the psychologist or the psychiatrist don't have a word or a say, or a team doesn't have a word or a say in it, and they're saying that, oh, it's administrative, which is run by psych tech Ian Young. And I called patients' rights 3 times already about this issue on SOC 341, and they haven't got back in touch with me. So my brothers filed one, and they still haven't gotten back in touch with me.
Noted.
Thank you.
Is there anything else about your experiences with patients' rights advocates here at Coalinga State Hospital that you would like to make a statement about?
Well, they always just cover the hospital like the other gentleman was saying. They come up with whatever, if it's not a right that, the hospital is stepping on, that, we don't feel that we can help you, or they come up with some excuse. Like this one, I'm moving me. They say, the doctors say it's administrative move, but it's just a psych tech, overriding all of my therapists, social workers, psychologists, psychiatrists. It doesn't make any sense. Same thing with the patient's rights. They just override everything to the hospital. Thank you.
Noted. Thank you. That should be it for Unit 1, unless there's anybody else from Unit 1 that would like to speak up. All right, we're moving to Unit 2. Is there anybody from Unit 2 on the line?
Yes, I am. You hear me?
Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I hear you. Can you list your first name?
Okay, so I'm not muted. Correct?
No, you're not muted. I can hear you.
Okay. My name is Ted. My ID number is 1336-7. I'm a resident of Coalinga State Hospital on a licensed unit, ICF2. Real quick, I wanted to say on addressing what somebody else said, that also I've experienced the same thing when I call on the patient's rights phone and ask for a callback from patient's rights staff. I have never once received that callback. All right, continuing on from there. Item 1, I arrived at CSH in February of 2011. My opinion of patients' rights here is so low as to be termed sub-zero. The general consensus, I'm on the recording. The general consensus here among virtually every patient I have ever spoken with from anywhere in the hospital over the intervening 11 and a half years is that patients' rights is a joke. They do nothing to help ever. Out of the hundreds and hundreds of patients I have talked to over the years, I have only met 4 who said they were ever helped by patients' rights. Item 2. I myself have never once gotten help from them. I have my copies of just over 50 complaints, as well as their responses when they chose to respond at all. Over the years, several of my complaints were never responded to. 10 or 12 responses claimed my complaints were not patients' rights issues. Another 20 or so just referred me back to my treatment team. And the remaining 15 or so had absolutely nothing to do with my complaint, and then said they found no evidence to support the claims, which I never made. I don't even bother with them anymore, as they have proven themselves to be utterly useless. And finally, in 11 and a half years, I have only once seen a patient's rights representative on the unit when one of the four previously mentioned patients happened to live on my unit. That's the only time I've ever seen or heard of a patient's rights representative coming to the unit. On a different note, I was unfortunately prevented from being able to give my oral declaration on Sunday regarding medical issues. So perhaps I'll be able to discuss how I can go about getting my oral declaration on the recording, but this was regarding medical issues, which is not the topic of this conversation. So I believe this concludes my declaration at this point. Am I good?
Okay, Ted. We will see if we can have somebody follow up with you about recording your oral statement addressing medical issues. Thank you for your statement today. Is there anyone else on Unit 2 that would like to make a statement today? Unit 3, is there anybody from Unit 3 who would like to make a statement today?
Yeah, Justin, Paul's here on Unit 3. The conferees so far have done a very, very good job of explaining what's going on with the patient's rights. I want to add maybe a bit of reinforcement on two items. Number one, I've stood in front of the town hall meetings at times and spoken to hundreds of patients. And whenever I mention patients' rights, there is a very loud and strong boo. Nobody believes they're doing anything. And the final one is patients' rights has no enforcement power, unfortunately, here. Even if they decide to do something, they can't make anybody here do anything. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Is there anybody else for Unit 3 that would like to speak? All right. Unit 4, is there anybody from Unit 4 on the phone that would like to speak today? Unit 5, is there anybody from Unit 5 that would like to speak today? Unit 6, is there anybody online from Unit 6 that would like to speak today? Unit 7, is there anyone online from Unit 7 that would like to make a statement today?
Yes, there are several people here on Unit 7.
Okay, Unit 7, would you like to give me the first name of the individuals on Unit 7 who would like to speak?
Hi, this is Bear. Okay,
Bear?
I want to echo the sentiments of a lot of the patients that have already made statements about patients' rights. Just basically, to me, it's like they're just more of a formality to look good on paper. In my experiences with them, I too have several complaints that I've kept over the years. Their response never really addresses the core issue that you're complaining about. The issues that you raise. It's like they find other things and a lot of insignificant things in the complaint to address. Never really the core issue. Also their investigative work. I mean, when you have witnesses to something or you see something going on and they talk about in their investigation, nobody ever comes up and talks to other patients or to get any kind of affidavits or hear any testimony from witnesses. So to me, they just have they're just a formality to look good on paper. And if you guys want copies of a lot of their responses and a lot of the issues raised to see how far off base they are from each other, it's kind of mind-blowing sometimes. And it is really disheartening when, especially if you have an emergency issue on the unit, if something's going on the unit that you need, you can't wait, You call their you call the phone, the patient's rights phone, I don't know how many times their voicemails are full, or they just don't get back to you at all. And that's about it for me.
Okay. Is there anyone else on Unit 7 that would like to make a statement today? Yes. Mike. Hello. What is your first name?
My name is Mike O, on Unit 7.
Mike, would you like to make a statement today?
Yes, thank you.
Please note that this call is recorded.
Thank you to, I had the same issue that Bear had as well, that when I did try to call patients' rights, the phone was, all of their recordings were full and no one got back to me. I would like to say thank you to Jeff, what he touched on about calling like a politician, a car salesman, or an insurance claims rep and trying to get our very important issues to someone outside of this hospital, that we're begging people, please, to help us find someone who actually cares about the problems that we're facing here, compounded by what's going on with COVID. There's obviously issues here that are surrounding us. We have people that we care about. In more than 2.5 years of our being on this perpetual lockdown, I've never even seen the DRC staff on our unit, not once. And like I said, you can't contact anybody through the phone system that they have implemented. And meanwhile, people that I care about, my friends, are dying here, and nothing is being done about this. We have people on our unit that we're trying to advocate for because they're unable to advocate for themselves. No training whatsoever has been done when it comes to these personal protective equipment, the PPE. There's no MSDS sheet, a material safety data sheet that's been issued for any of the stuff that they're giving to us to protect ourselves from COVID-19. Nothing like that has ever even been done. They don't even try. They don't even attempt to do it. So once again, in a situation where we're on this perpetual lockdown, it's now to the point where the staff here are addicted to these lockdowns. And so there's even an expectation in prisoners. In the prison system, they have an expectation to get an answer within 30 days to their complaint. And without an appropriate authority to complain to, the problem that we face is so important right now because the abuse continues and it gets worse and it's being covered up. And so nobody even has any idea what's actually happening here. People are actually spending so much time in their beds. We come out for chow 3 times a day. We get served on our unit. One quarantine falls over right into another one. Unit 7 was actually the only unit in the hospital that I know of that was quarantined for 9 months straight. We were unable to get off the unit for 9 months in one straight shot, 9 months out of the 2.5 years we've been on COVID lockdown. These guys get out of their beds, get their chow, and get right back in their beds. And we do that every day, day in and day out. People are gaining weight, and the issue that it's compounding the fact that our lethargic way of life now, sedentary lifestyle, is killing people. Diabetes is a huge issue. And so nobody takes our grievance process seriously. Nobody's even filing any grievances. I've heard people say that it's referred to as a joke. So what I did before our conference call today, I went around and I took the flyer around to everybody on the unit to show them there's going to be a conference call today, and it's going to be on the issue of patients' rights. And I experienced something similar to what Paul said about his experience in the town hall meeting where people booed him off the stage. Like, come on, that's a joke. I was mocked, okay, flat out. I was mocked by this. People said, quotes were made such as, nothing will ever be done about it. Let's see, they basically said that it was stupid that I was even trying to make a difference. And actually an argument actually erupted in our day room because of that flyer that I was showing people. Oh, you're just wasting your time, they told me. You know, it's a big farce that you think that now, after, because most of these people on Unit 7 have been here for the 10 years that I've been here, and they say parroted exactly the same thing. You're wasting your time, nothing will be done.
Okay, let me interrupt you for a second. How many people...
Noted. Is that your statement for today?
How many people...
Mike? Yeah.
That oversee this hospital, such as government...
Mike, are you there? Unit 7, can you hear me?
Yeah, that's it.
Former employees.
Okay, thank you. Is there anybody else from Unit 7 that would like to speak today? No. And I just want to say again that this call is being recorded. It will be made available to the general public on YouTube. And, of course, we completely support all of the individuals who brought forward issues and concerns today. These are things that we all know, and it can feel very daunting to keep repeating them, but we do need to make these statements and get them out there and recorded. That way we continue to build the documentary history. So thank you, everyone, so far that has commented, and for anyone else who may comment shortly. Again, this call is recorded. Is there anyone on Unit 8 that is online and would like to make a statement today? Is there anyone on Unit 9 who would like to make a statement today? Is there anyone from Unit 10 who would like to make a statement today? Is there anyone from Unit 11 who would like to make a statement today? Is there anyone from Unit 12 who would like to make a statement today? Is there anyone from Unit 13 that would like to make a statement today? Is there anyone from Unit 14 who would like to make a statement today? Is there anyone from Unit 15 who would like to make a statement today?
Yes. Hi, this is Kenny on Unit 15. I just want to tell you guys that, you know, it's like the court process. You know, they wear us down with this patient's rights, and a lot of people don't follow up. And I just want to commend everybody who's doing what they can, because one person makes a difference. And for a lot of people, I understand the feeling that you're wasting your time. You're wasting your time because it seems that way. But one day, somebody's going to do something, and a spark's going to start a fire. And that's how forest fires are burned down, and that's what this fucking place is a forest. And we need to burn it down, man. And you guys keep doing what you're doing, all right? Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else from Unit 15 that would like to make a statement today?
Yes, Mike G.
Now it's our turn.
Unit 15.
Yes, Mike G.
My number is 1521-4, and I agreed to the recording. I filed several complaints with Daniel Wagner's cut and paste shop over there. He finds any reason he can whatsoever to make sure that the hospital is 110% correct in what they're doing to you anytime they do it. I've pretty much given up on him. I haven't wrote a complaint to him in over 4 years. I arrived here in 2012. I've sent complaints all the way up to third level of Sacramento. Like when your complaint goes to Brandon Price's office, they hand it back to the guy that you're writing up against.
Sure.
So whoever you're writing up, they end up with the complaint and they answer it for Brandon Price.
Right now,
and then by the time it gets up to the second and third level of Sacramento, they say, yeah, Daniel Wagner's cut and paste was correct, and we agreed that the hospital was completely correct in what they did to you. And it don't matter what the issue is, they will find a way to turn it. I found if you use the telephone, they will twist your words to fit whatever narrative they're writing. If you put it in writing, they decide whether or not your issue has merit. And if it does have merit, then they will go in a completely different direction. And I found that when they divert your going over to a different direction, if you comment on that direction that they lead you to, that when you go to the next level, they will divert you again, and then they just keep diverting you till they confuse the issue so far that by the time it gets to the end, they don't even know what you're talking about anymore. I mean, you start out with a one-page complaint. By the time it gets up to the third level, you probably got 30 to 50 pages, and it makes no sense. And that's all I got to say. Thank you.
Thank you.
100 degrees or above. To the hospital. Down effect.
Is there anyone else from Unit 15 that would like to speak today?
Negative.
Unit 16. Is there anyone from Unit 16 who would like to speak today?
Yeah, the first one is Joel.
Joel. Go ahead, Joel. You do consent to being recorded today, correct?
Of course. Basically, first of all, dealing with patients' rights. They're supposed to deal with our rights, and they're supposed to push things through. End of 2007, beginning of 2018, the hospital decided to take the phones away from the patients, which crossed the line of undeniable rights, where we have no access to talk to our attorneys, nor the rights that can't be denied for good cause, which there wasn't any good cause, for family or friends or anything like that. I'm still waiting for the hospital to give me the denial of rights paperwork on that, and my response from Patients' Rights was they're working on a hospital-wide one. Number one, there is nothing in the law that says for a hospital-wide, nor for a non-deniable right. And what happened to their follow-through? When we send something after the executive level, which is the second level or the first level of appeal, we send it to Sacramento, and it's very rare that I hear about anyone getting a follow-up. Why is it that is not happening out of the Sacramento? As far as it goes on denial of rights, I've never had anything I've turned in that dealt with the denial of rights, and they kept denying the rights, that Patients' Rights ever pushed them to get them to fill out the paperwork. Like I said, I'm still waiting from 2017. Patients' Rights is supposed to go to the units once a week. They come in usually a back door, quickly go into the nurse's station, sign in so that they have their signature, and then run out the door. Number two, we already know that mail disappears, mail gets delayed. I have to get on, let licensing know, because it will go 3 months, 6 months, and I won't get anything from them. I think the hospital's throwing it away because they swear they're sending it to us. And, when they put it in a big envelope, then I finally get it. But why is Patients' Rights even sending their responses back to us through the mail, which they can claim they send it, we never got it, when they're coming to the units once a week, supposedly? So why trust a system that we know isn't working? Number three, we don't get responses on those things. I go through, I try what measures I can. We have problems, say, with the shift lead or with the unit staff, or say with even the trust office not kicking out our, quarterly minimum, statements, which is under Title 22. So I go use my shift lead, go through the unit supervisor, go to Patients' Rights, and I get this response back that says, go to your shift lead or the unit supervisor. Well, I already told you in the complaint that was exhausted. Why are you sending me back to someone who I already told you is done? But pretty much about what Patients' Rights, the only thing they're good for is to turn something in so there's documentation so that you have that coming back. Because like I said, I don't see things happening. There is no follow-through. How can you get any bigger than an entire hospital denied access to their attorneys and their family members, and you still don't do the follow-up? In our charts, we're being recorded negative because they're stressed, we're quarantined, all of this. By their policy, they're supposed to write in our chart that we're quarantined, we don't have access to the groups, we don't have this. Is that in anybody's chart? Why isn't patients' rights making sure they're doing the documentation and those things? That's enough for right now.
Did you say there was two?
All right. Is there anybody else from Unit 16 that would like to speak?
Yes. Name is David. ID number is 1663-4. I have literally complained to patients' rights about things that I have been dealt by abuse by staff and other falsified documents, and every time I report it, I'm telling the patient's rights over the phone I'm an illiterate person that can't read or write, and this is the only one way I could try to get a hold of them through the phone. It takes from like a year for me to get an answer back, why the subject is already gone and done with. And I'm asking them to do their job every time when I call them about what rights have been violated in my situation.
Okay, noted. Is there anything else about your experience with patients' rights that you would like to discuss? Some of the common issues were, how do you feel about the Patients' Rights Office? Do they help you?
The office is not doing a effective job, and they need to be pretty much dismantled and replaced by somebody who's willing to do their job.
All right. Have you ever seen patients' rights staff during the COVID lockdown?
I've seen none, and I know they have never ever fixed the problems that were dealt to me because I am somewhat under the Disability Act, and the abuse I've been reporting about, they're just not responding and not doing nothing about it.
Noted. Is that it for your statement, David?
Yes.
All right. Is there anyone else from Unit 16 that would like to make a statement today?
I think there might be.
I'll ask again, is there anybody else from Unit 16 who would like to make a statement today? If so, please say your name.
Hey, you. I'm playing with myself and ready for you. I want you to help me.
All right. Is there anybody on Unit 17?
Here's the person who's got a complaint.
Yeah, my name is Carlito Saucedo. I'm from Unit 16, CL number 1658-4. Anytime we have a complaint against a staff member or anything...
First, before you begin, do you consent to being recorded today?
Yes, I do.
Okay. All right, go ahead, make your statement.
I've been here since 2013. Every time that we had any complaint, whether it's from myself or any other patients here, it's always been found and come back as unfounded. They don't really research or do anything, and when they do call up, they always have their paperwork's either missing, or they can't find something, or it all comes back that they find our complaints unfounded, whether it's because we've been injured or staff been abusing us, taking our property, losing it, destroying it, but it always comes back that it's unfounded. So we have no recourse other than to suffer from the abuses that we've been that they make their own rules. They don't abide by the ADs themselves, or they say that it's an AD it's there, well, we haven't been using it. So even to this day, we have other staff members that abuse us, that go through our stuff in retaliation, and we put complaints about it, that the retaliation and even the damages to our property, it always comes back that either the property is missing, there's no proof, they're always backing their staff and not the patients, and when it's witnessed by other staff members, they don't, being staff reporters that they are, they don't back the patients up because they fear the retaliation from their own staff. And I've seen that here at the hospital, especially on Unit 16. There were incidents in the past with Justin Boswell, where I was on the phone with 911 because he was being abused and attacked by staff members. And when the emergency vehicle arrived to render aid to this individual, they were told that it was a crank call. Don't pay attention to anything that any patients call in on, and it's already been handled. And that's on file, and that's been recorded because my family already checked on that. And that was back in, I believe, was it 2016 or 2017, around that year. Plus, I've always witnessed back in 2014 a murder of a patient by a DPS officer, Francisco Moreno, where he was being held down by many patients or many staff members in a mall area. He'd been restrained. He had a spit mask on, and out of the back, coming out of nowhere, was Officer Moreno. I guess he was a new hire, and he just jumped on his chest with his knee and also on his larynx and crushing it. You could hear the crackle from the crush, and that was always saying that it never happened. And he's been the one that's been abusing patients from the get-go since he's been here.
Yes, we received many complaints about that individual DPS officer.
So you know this about this individual himself.
Yes.
So you know that we have problems here with these DPS officers, and they too is like their own little police force. But it's been sort of winding down now because of the COVID, and we don't hear too many abuses anymore because I guess they put a leash on him. But he's still involved in a lot of stuff.
Is there anything else regarding the Patients' Rights Office here at Department of State Hospital's Coalinga that you would like to enter into the record?
Well, I know they tend to push a lot of things either under the carpet or into the circular file. It's really a non-existent entity here at the hospital. If we want anything that here to take place, we got to go either through an outside source with our lawyers or our family, because patients' rights here is really, it's like I say, it's non-existent.
Noted. Thank you for your testimony today.
You're very welcome.
Is there anyone else from Unit 16 that would like to speak today? Unit 17. Is there anyone from Unit 17 that would like to speak today? Unit 18. Is there anybody? Oh, well, that's us. Is there anybody that would like to speak from Unit 18? All right. I'll make a statement myself. This is Justin. I will say that all of the complaints and statements that I've heard today seem to reflect my own individual experiences. I am aware of very few responses where Patients' Rights has responded affirming that my rights were violated. When they do affirm that my rights are violated, the facility disregards the patient's rights response because there's no enforcement mechanism. Whenever there's an issue on the unit, many staff, psych techs, level of care staff here, will mockingly say, "Why don't you file a complaint?" Ha 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 ha, and laugh in your face, because to them, patients' rights is a joke, as it is to almost every single patient that I've ever spoken to at this facility in the 12 years that I've been here. Based on my own experience and what I've seen by others, many of the responses are straw man attacks. In other words, they will take whatever your complaint is, and instead of addressing the issue that is the substance of your complaint, they will change your complaint to say that you're actually complaining about something different, and then they'll attack the completely different thing that was irrelevant to your actual complaint. That's a logical fallacy called a straw man attack. Then the other thing is many times there are issues that were witnessed by patients and staff, and patients' rights has, every time I've ever been aware of any type of an incident that was referred to patients' rights has never interviewed any patient witnesses. I'm aware of no instances. That includes times when I've been a witness to patients being assaulted, and other times when I've been assaulted and other patients have witnessed it. There's a complete refusal to interview witnesses that happen to be residents at the facility. They will only interview other staff. Another issue is they do refer the complaints in a circular fashion and keep referring you back to the very staff that were causing the issue, or their direct supervisors who will retaliate against you for reporting an issue regarding their underlings. This goes to the heart of the fact that there is no privacy with patients' rights. As soon as you write a complaint, the first thing that they do is inform the staff member that you're complaining about that you, by name, have made a complaint against them. And you almost immediately, I have, over and over, suffered direct and immediate reprisal because of this. I think that not only is there no confidence in the patient's rights advocacy here at the facility, but I believe that there is actually a significant level of distrust, and that distrust is a major factor as to why many individuals no longer are willing to use patients' rights as a method to try to advocate, and many people have given up and become hopeless. In addition, I personally have witnessed staff who were upset with an individual here at the facility, Mr. Parkinson, Mr. James Parkinson, and he was very active in advocating on residents' behalf and a member of the Unit Advisory Council. He wrote many complaints, and the unit staff, the level of care staff on the unit, became very hostile to him, even mocking him and teasing him, holding his ID, taking his ID from him and holding it in his face approximately 1 inch away from his nose, and talking about, "Can you see it now? Can you see it now?" One of the issues that they did was switch out the wheels on his chair to some wheels that were almost impossible to push. It would take approximately maybe 80 to 100 pounds of force to push this chair. And Mr. Parkinson began complaining about an increasing frequency of chest pains. These chest pains eventually resulted in him suffering an incident in the middle of the night where his ability to speak was significantly reduced. The LOC on the unit continued to make fun of him and mock him for not being able to speak right. Within a few months, Mr. Parkinson passed away from a heart attack. This is not just medical neglect. This is a form of medical murder. Patients' rights has never addressed such an issue. Never. And it is their failure to perform their basic duties that resulted in the situation that led to Mr. James Parkinson's death in the first place. That is the end of my statement. Is there anybody from the team who would like to make a statement today? Is there anybody from Unit 20 who would like to make a statement today?
5, recording's okay.
Who's this?
Dinger on Unit 19, recording okay.
Okay, go ahead, make your statement.
So my statement is just to kind of reiterate on what other people have said. The staff coming on the units to talk to the patients. In the 7 years that I've been here, I have never seen patient staff come up here to talk to patients on COVID or not. Never, not once. I don't think that there's no time frame getting back to the patients on these issues. I filed a complaint on May 25th of this year, and I still haven't received anything back. Something's got to be done. If we can't go to patients' rights to stand up for us, who can we go to for help? Also, like Joel said, there's no follow-up. You would think that they would try to follow up on some of this paperwork that they had, have a runner come up here or something and talk to us about it. And I, too, went around and to tell the patients about the conference call like Mike on Unit 7, and they said it was a waste of your time. I need you guys to know that it's not a waste of our time, and we need to band together. Like Kenny said on Unit 15, it's not a waste of time. We have to stick together, and we have to swallow our pride sometimes with each other. And with that said, I wanted to thank Justin for having this conference call, as well as the work that Jeff does, and also Paul. Thank you.
Thank you. Can you spell your first name for me?
Ding, D-I-N-G-E-R.
Yes. Okay, thank you. Is there anybody else on Unit 19 that would like to speak today?
No, there's not.
All right, I'll go to Unit 20. Is there anyone on Unit 20 that would like to speak today? Is there anyone on Unit 21 who would like to speak today? Is there anyone on Unit 22 who would like to speak today? Anyone on Unit 23 who would like to speak today? Anyone on 24 who would like to speak today? 25? Anyone on 26? Anyone on 27? Anyone on 28 who would like to speak today? All right, that's all the units. Is there anybody who is online who has not had an opportunity to speak today who would like to make a statement?
Yeah, Justin, this is Paul on Unit 3. I've got 3 points to make. Number one, I've got someone who does want to make a comment. Number two, Justin, I wish do you think it'd be appropriate for you to talk about the effort that you and I made a couple of years ago to file a whole set of complaints against DRC and what happened with that? And finally, I'd like to make a closing statement, too. So I've got Steve here on Unit 3 who'd like to make a statement. Hold on.
We'll let Steve go first, since that's the statements.
Okay, yeah, this is Stephen on Unit 3. I've been under this law for 22 years, and in my entire time under this law, I've never found that patients' rights has done anything for anybody here. I recently made a complaint because out of my back window, I can see the back dock of the dining hall where they deliver the food and they pick up the trash. and I made a complaint to Patients' Rights that they were using the same truck to deliver food that they were using to pick up trash. And Patients' Rights got back to me and told me, if you're finding an issue with this, please go speak to your team. So, I mean, what use are they? Anyway, I've made many other complaints to Patients' Rights about very important things, even taking stuff all the way up to Sacramento, and it either comes back that it's not a Patients' Rights issue, or go speak to your treatment team, or, you know, that they've found that your complaint isn't valid. Anyway, that's all I have to say.
Thank you, Steve. All right, now, before Paul was speaking about an effort that we'd made a few years back before the pandemic, where we were addressing issues, we're working on addressing issues of the failures of the patients' rights advocates at the Department of State Hospital's Coalinga facility. We collected a large number of complaints and responses and submitted a number of complaints to DRC about their employees' performance specifically. These, they sent them back with the response that we should file them with the patients' rights advocates, which were the very people that we were complaining about.
Justin, what does DRC stand for?
What's that? Hold on. So their response, DRC's response was circular. We began trying to work to orchestrate a conference call with the DRC board, and we're over and over we were stymied by the Disability Rights California Sacramento office reception staff, who would refuse to allow us to speak to any of the higher up individuals and would try to force us to have to take all issues to our facility patients' rights advocates, even when it was explained that those were the people we were complaining about, and that the proper procedure for complaining about a DRC employee's failure to perform adequately was to write it up and submit it to the DRC, not the DSH PRA. Unfortunately, our efforts were significantly hampered by the pandemic, and thank goodness that Mr. Jeff was able to succeed where we got stymied. So I think that this is a great effort, and I think it's very well appreciated, and we have significantly more information that people have submitted in the past that can be attached to this current conference call. So I really do appreciate everything that everyone's done, and know that no work in the past goes unused. We will continue to use that work and utilize it to demonstrate our efforts at self-advocacy in the absence of any patients' rights advocacy efforts whatsoever. So thank you again. I appreciate that. Paul, is there anything else you'd like to say?
This is Jay's here. Yes, I'd like to make a closing statement. As you know, I represent the working group, and even though the working group is not sponsoring this, we are in full accord with the aims of this effort. We are fully in accord with the efforts that Jeff is making to bring this attention to the DRC, in particular the emergency problems that have been pointed out, as particularly with the medical, and that have been pointed out very much today, and the fact that even in an emergency situation, the patient rights, the DRC, fails to respond to any kind of plea for help. There needs to be at least two different avenues. If there is an emergency, DRC needs to have a procedure or a process where they can handle an emergency. And on a non-emergency basis, they have to stop being apologists for the hospital and do their job. Thank you, Justin, and thank you. You did a wonderful job on hostessing this, and appreciate your work tremendously. Thank you.
Thank you. And again, my name is Justin. I am on Unit 18. Feel free to call me if you have any follow-up information that you'd like to submit, or you can call Jeff on Unit 14. Thank you. Have a nice day.
14. Jeff is on Unit 9. Jeff is on Unit 9.
What's that?
Justin, this is
Jeff
Carlos
is on Unit 9.
16.
Okay.
Justin.
Yes, I'm on Unit 18.
This is Carlos on Unit 16.
Yes,
so
Carlos.
they're going to utilize all our names when they do this, or what?
Only the name. It should be just the first name.
Okay.
But this recording, as stated, this recording is directly being posted. Then from the recording, from the information that was gathered today, I will prepare a statement to be made to the Board of Directors for Disability Rights California on a conference call that we're putting together. And it will refer back to the YouTube posting of this conference call so that they can hear it for themselves if they wish.
Okay, so there's going to be using just the first names, no last names.
Correct.
All right. That's
Justin,
my main
this is
concern.
Mike on Unit 7 again.
Yes,
are we
Mike.
still recording, Justin?
Yes, we are still recording. You will hear an announcement when the recording stops.
Okay. Is it possible, can I say one more thing? I would like to affirm something that Carlos on Unit 16 said.
Yes, you can. Go ahead.
Okay, if I could please, just take a minute. Actually, Carlos brought up a good point about Officer Moreno and the man that he killed, Cedro Zavala, that day that he was murdered. I was also eyewitness to that, and we had a recording of what happened. An audio recording was made by somebody who was kind enough to do so for us up from the streets. And as a direct result of that, Ken Husky, I don't know if you guys remember him, he was actually one of the ones that was there, and he was screaming to Officer Moreno, "Stop, you're killing him." And Dr. Newbarth was standing right over the whole scenario. Everybody knows who Dr. DC is. Some people after that were calling him Dr. Death, Dr. DC, because Dr. Newbarth stood there, did nothing, despite the fact that he has a obligation to first do no harm as a doctor, as a medical professional. And I love the fact that Paul brought up that we're talking about the staff's performance here in the facility, and the fact that these people that work here have now become enablers to the abuse. They're silencing us, and that's why, Justin, I don't know if you remember when we did the radio show, CSH News, Blog Talk Radio, CSH News, was directly resulted from that death of murder of Cedro Zavala by Officer Moreno. And it's interesting because I filed a complaint later on, and when I was in the interview room, first I filed a complaint, and then I filed the SOC 341, which is a citizen's complaint. And as soon as I began to talk about what took place, the two DPS officers, because I knew I wasn't going to get any response from patients' rights, the DPS officers looked at one another, turned the tape recorder off, and said, "This interview is over." So, I mean, obviously they had, their fellow employees back, okay? So let's not be, shy about this. The fact that these staff members are doing this and getting away with this, they're covering up a murder. And I love the comment that Singer made. He was on Unit 19. He was talking about the fact that We need to stick together. Stop. People need to keep filing complaints. We need to stick together. And it just made me think that how if we don't stand together, then we're going to die together. Because the more that this goes on, if we have no authority to complain to, it's only going to get worse here. I mean, especially because of the lockdown, people on the streets, their minds are on other things. So it's definitely important for us to do something right now about these issues that are coming up.
Okay, thank you, Mike. And thank you, everybody, for participating in today's conference call. One more thing. Hopefully we will have more information on some more conference calls, and we will keep the general population informed about our efforts as we progress. Thank you again. Have a nice day. Bye. Is that it?